We have to get Stephen McNulty on the phone. Shall we call him?
Do. Yes, please.
DSN calling.
Hello?
Stephen.
Hi there.
What's going on? It's DeLuca, Charlotte, and Stacy.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning. You have a big event tonight, 7 to 10 p.m. at Cyrus, don't you?
I do indeed.
And I'm looking at this. I wasn't aware of your story. Could you tell everybody what happened with you?
Sure. Well, basically, I was studying in New Zealand. It was the first day of class, a Tuesday morning. I was on a bus leaving school, headed into the city, and all of a sudden, the bus started to pitch violently. And we were all kind of looking at each other, wondering what was going on. And the bus pulled over and stopped, but it kept shaking side to side. And we realized we were in the middle of a huge earthquake, an earthquake which destroyed the city. So I started off there. I crawled through the earthquake, got to my apartment, got my cameras, and got back into the city to photograph the scene. And afterwards, I was kind of floundering in Christchurch, wondering what to do. It took about 3 weeks, and I was staying with a friend because I didn't have a place to stay. School was closed, and I had no way home for 3 months. And I was kind of looking for direction. And all of a sudden, I woke up one morning and Japan was all over the news from the tsunami, which hit up north. And I just kind of felt this pull. After going through the earthquake with the people of New Zealand, I kind of felt this kinship with the people of Japan, and I was on the first flight in.
Wow.
I found out about it at about 9 a.m. in the morning. I had a ticket by noon, and by 3 p.m., I was gone.
How long of a flight is that? How long of a flight is that from New Zealand to Japan?
I think it was, if I recall, I think it was 12 or 14 hours.
Wow.
Something like that. But they had been redirecting flights out of Tokyo, and that was actually literally the first flight to land in Tokyo.
Wow. So you show up in Tokyo. This is the same tsunami that caused the big Fukushima disaster, wasn't it?
Exactly. So I was there trying to get north to photograph and help in the disaster zone, but within about 48 hours, the Fukushima meltdown started, and the cordon actually overlapped the highway. So there was no way past Fukushima. There was no way in or out of the northern part of the island.
Wow.
Unless you were to hike up the western coast and somehow traverse the Japanese Alps and get in. But,
wow.
I wasn't able to do that.
Wow.
So I just started photographing there in Japan, in Tokyo, and made it to the Japanese Alps and got to photograph the snow macaques there. They have a species of snow macaque which has discovered the thermal pools in the mountains.
Right.
And they just kind of lounge around in the thermal pools all day long.
Wow.
They were a hoot.
So there's this gigantic earthquake. Everybody is fleeing this part of Japan, and you're like the one guy that's trying to go to where everybody's leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents weren't really excited about that.
So you go up there with your camera. How many pictures did you end up snapping with all this?
Oh, I don't know. The whole trip, I mean, it went on after that. The whole trip was about 4 months.
Wow.
So I think I went through, I don't know, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 frames a week, something like that.
So you have an enormous gallery of pictures that you snapped over your stay in Japan.
Yeah. And in New Zealand.
Well, Japan, I was in Japan for about 3 weeks. And the American embassy kind of, quote-unquote, gently urged me to leave. They were forcing all American nationals to leave Japan because of Fukushima. They were worried about the deteriorating situation up there, and they wanted to send me to Korea. But in the fine print, it says, you will be responsible for paying us back.
Oh.
So I figured if I have to leave at my own expense, I'm going to go somewhere I want to go. And it had always been a dream of mine to make it to Borneo. And I was in that part of the world, and I just decided to go for it. And I got a flight to Kuala Lumpur, which is kind of the hub for Southeast Asia. And they announced to us mid-air, I mean, we were boarding for another 12-hour flight from Tokyo to Kuala Lumpur. And they landed the plane in Hong Kong. And they deplaned us and sent us all through Geiger counters to make sure we were okay.
Oh, wow.
But made it to Borneo. I spent about a month in Borneo, I went up to Thailand and Cambodia. I was there for about another month, and then made it down to French Polynesia before going back to New Zealand and packing up all my stuff.
Your story is incredible, Stephen. I had no idea. You did stuff that I would never in my life do, and you did it all by yourself too, didn't you?
Well, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I maybe wasn't as productive as I would have been if I had stayed in school or had come home and worked. Kind of blew through a big chunk of my savings. But when in life am I ever going to have that opportunity again?
Right.
So I don't regret it at all. Now, mind you, I was not at all prepared for this. I hadn't been expecting to be gallivanting around Asia for 4 months, so I didn't have a backpack to carry my stuff. I didn't have a jacket. I didn't have a winter coat to go up in the Japanese Alps and photograph these monkeys. So I was making it through with the bare necessities. I was carrying a rolling duffel bag through Asia for 4 months.
That's incredible.
So it was just very spur of the moment and spontaneous, and it just really kind of shows you what life's all about.
And where out of all the places that you traveled in this 4-month stretch, where was your favorite place?
Well, I would say I probably got waylaid in Malaysia the longest. I didn't really have an itinerary. I just kind of went where the wind carried me. But I found this little town in Malaysia close to Brunei called Miri, and I just kind of made it my home base. And I traveled out of there for weeks, and I fell in love with the place. It's a really nice small town.
Where would you stay?
Usually hostels, backpackers. There's a real strong network of travelers who kind of leave feedback for each other about what hostel's okay to go to, where they got robbed, who has the best food, that kind of stuff. And then there's another organization called couchsurfing.org, and that's basically just a network of travelers. So when I'm home, I can post, that I have a couch open and travelers can come and stay with me. And then when I'm traveling, I can do the same with them. So there'll be other travelers who live in Thailand, and I can write them an email and say, hey, I'm passing through. Can I stay with you? Now that, serves multiple functions. It's not just to save money, but you're staying with somebody who lives locally and knows the local spots and can take you to places that tourists wouldn't normally know about. Mm-hmm. So that gets me in with, I got into the hill tribes of Thailand up north that way. I wound up staying at a tribal co-op in northern Thailand, and I never would have found that if it weren't for other travelers having formed these networks. Where was your least favorite place? Least favorite place, you're going to be surprised, but it was actually Polynesia, French Polynesia. There were some cultural differences there that made it tough, and I actually wound up in the jail in the airport within about 5 minutes.
Within 5 minutes of you being in French Polynesia, you're in the jail at the airport.
Yes, we did not make it off on the best footing.
Is that because you were an American?
There are some cultural differences between the Americans and the French that make it hard for us to get along. I'll put it like that.
Wow, interesting. But yeah. Luckily, you weren't an extended stay. We're not going to see you on Locked Up Abroad, are we?
No. Luckily, that couch surfing system I was telling you about, I had some hosts who were waiting for me at the airport. And I mentioned to the police, we were having a hard time communicating as it was with my broken French. And I said, can I make a phone call? My hosts are waiting for me. They're going to leave. And they said, oh, you have hosts outside. Let's go get them. So the hosts came in. Mind you, I've never met these people before in my life. We've exchanged a half a dozen emails, and I pull them into this whole situation where they have to talk me out of police custody. But it really kind of lubricated the situation. They were native French speakers, and they explained the whole situation and got it taken care of.
Yeah, that was a question that I had, too. All these places that you went in Asia, how did you overcome the language barrier? Do you know Japanese?
I learned a little bit, enough to flirt, but no, a lot of body language, really. That's kind of the universal language.
That's amazing.
And it's not, I was intimidated at first, and that precludes a lot of people from traveling,
like me,
to Asia,
like me,
where the language is so different.
Yeah.
If you're traveling in Europe or South America, there are enough cognates that you can get along, but in Asian countries there are no cognates. There's no similar foundation in language at all, and that's kind of something you just embrace. You embrace the fact that you're gonna feel or look silly, and they laugh right along with you, and it's really a pleasant experience. It doesn't stress you out the way I thought it would. It's really part of the fun of traveling in those countries.
What country had the largest population of good-looking women that were interested in American men?
Oh, man, my girlfriend's listening. You're going to get me in trouble.
Listen, I didn't say anything about you hooking up with anybody. I'm just trying to make travel plans.
Oddly enough, throughout Asia, they actually really like the big noses that white men have, which is usually kind of a turn off for American women, but they just love white men's big noses over there.
Right.
It's really funny.
We're going to be on vacation next week. I'm going to Asia.
But yeah, it was really fun. It was kind of fun to be an exotic person. You don't really think of yourself, your American culture, as being exotic, but it is over there. Yeah. And it's really kind of celebrated.
Yeah.
Well, and as you said, you have 4 months worth of pictures and photos of your journey through all of these different places, and that's all going to be on display tonight.
That's right.
And it's going to be on display for a while there at Cyrus, right there on Cleveland Avenue in Canton. How long will your photos be up?
Through mid-November. I think the closing date, I believe, is November 14th.
That's right, yep. And it opens tonight, September 14th, so it'll be up for 2 months. You can go stop into Cyrus Gallery right there on Canton's Cleveland Avenue Northwest, next to Planned Parenthood and across the street from
the main post
office. And you're going to be there from 7 to 10 tonight, so people can come out and talk with you about your experiences themselves and enjoy your pictures. I mean, and you are, Stephen, I know that you are right now in the middle of exams because you are in school. You're back in school, and you're in medical school, right?
Pre-med.
Pre-med.
Yep.
And
I had an organic chem exam this morning, and I'm getting ready for an anatomy exam this afternoon.
Oh.
And then go to the opening.
Well, and that's, I mean, you are so diverse in all of your talents, and you are an amazing photographer. And,
thank you.
And I love your photography, and I love your pictures, and I cannot wait to see your exhibit tonight.
Now, are any of your pictures available for sale tonight?
Yeah. Yep, they're all in limited editions. This one has really small editions. There are actually only 5 prints of each image available.
Wow.
So they're in very small editions.
Wow.
So get in soon.
That's right.
Beautiful, beautiful photography. What an awesome story. Are you going to, write a book or anything about this? You really should, man.
I get asked that a lot. I do keep a journal when I travel, so maybe someday I'll publish some memoirs.
And real quick, I just want to touch on this because I still think that this is one of the funniest stories, and it's just one of those things about just keeping it Canton. But, Stephen, you had been selected as one of the premier bachelors under the age of 40 in Canton before you left for this journey. And I was trying to explain to DeLuca that you didn't really have the ability to fully take advantage of that, but then again, you just mentioned that your girlfriend's listening now, so I don't know if I want to get you.
I'll take advantage for him. We'll just cut Stephen's face out and post my face there. In fact, Stephen can take the picture. We'll just tape it in, and I'll be like, "Here you go. This is me." Now, he carried it with him to Asia. That's why the women loved him. He was carrying around the Canton repository.
Oh, and he was like, yeah, look at me. Yeah. I'm eligible.
So, since you've done the Asia thing, have you done this before? Have you done European trips and stuff, or no?
Not Europe. I used to keep an apartment in New Zealand. I travel back and forth quite a bit. So when I'm here, I travel the Americas, Central and South America, and the Caribbean. When I'm in New Zealand, I travel the South Pacific and Australia and that kind of stuff.
What an amazing...
So I've been traveling for about 10 years.
I've had people tell me, one of my really good friends, who happens to be our attorney, and that's why he's telling me this, because he can afford to. He's like, if you ever make money, the best way to spend your money is to travel the world. There is no better way to spend your money than to travel.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot less money, I think, than a lot of people think. When I was traveling Asia, I never spent more than maybe $150 max on any airplane ticket. even traveling from Tokyo to Kuala Lumpur, a 12-hour flight was, I think, $150.
How did you do that?
There's an airline over there that specializes in buying up like 1935 models of airplanes that are all rickety and falling apart, but they sell really cheap flights. So yeah, you can fly between countries for $25.
Wow.
And
you've got the adrenaline rush of not knowing if you're going to make it there in one piece.
Yeah. Well, when I landed in Malaysia the first time, they give you the standard fill out your customs card, don't bring in any fruits or vegetables, and by the way, if you're caught with any drugs, it carries a mandatory death sentence.
No!
Enjoy your stay.
What?
What? all of the Europeans and Americans are kind of just looking at each other like, I know I don't have anything, but I've seen this movie, and it doesn't end up so well for the tourists.
What? So, what kind of drugs? Like, is pot included in that, or?
They were the first country in the world to execute someone for marijuana.
Wow.
Yep. So here, the first 5 minutes of the news here is all of the drama, murders, drug arrests, all that kind of stuff. The first 5 minutes of the news there are all the executions.
Holy shit. Oh, can you imagine?
So you don't have to worry about crime. You just have to worry about the government killing you.
Yeah. But, and it's surprising because they were one of the sweetest people I ever met. I would not have expected that, but it's a Muslim culture, and the religion really weighs heavily on policy, and that's just what they believe. I never had any problems in the country at all. You just had to respect their mores.
Wow.
When in Rome. Mm-hmm.
Or Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, it was great to talk to you tonight. The exhibit 7 to 10, the opening tonight at Cyrus.
Cyrus Custom Framing and Art Gallery, 2645.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Hey, anytime, Stephen.
I really appreciate you taking the time.
I want to travel with you because I'm too much of a pussy to do it by myself.
All right. Let's go to Bhutan. Let's go to Bhutan in a couple of years.
I have a futon.
A black futon.
All right, Stephen. Great to talk to you, brother.
Good luck on the exams.
Bye.
Bye.